Hi there, I'm Jen, and I am kind of at a loss of inspiration for videos, but I had a not so great weekend and heading into this week, so I'm just here to talk to you soft-spoken as a person who deals with depression, as a person who is having a really hard time right now, and hopefully relates to you a little bit if you're going through something and maybe makes you feel like maybe you're not so much alone. I have a bowl of pickles because, as it turns out, I am dealing with disordered eating. I have since I was a teenager, and this stay-at-home quarantine thing is sort of making it more difficult, and I feel like I don't have a lot of control right now. And what happens is I end up trying to control other things, like I control this. This is a lovely pickle we have here. If anyone is dealing with disordered eating, dealing with anything like that, first of all, I just want to say that I'm really sorry that that's what you're dealing with, and that I don't want you to do that to yourself. I know what it's like. I deal with it. I don't want you to do that to yourself, but if you're going through it, you're not alone. Get yourself some pickles, something low calorie. Vegetables oftentimes are pretty low calorie. Just grab it and snack on it. Put something in your system, because I love you and I don't want you to feel bad about yourself, and I don't want you to feel like you don't have any control. So I'm trying to eat. I encourage others to eat, encourage other people to take care of themselves, even when we are at our worst moments. I will say, this weekend with my depression was a really bad moment. I almost feel like the skin, the outer layer of skin, this sounds really gross and weird, I feel like it's been stripped off. My nerves are raw, and I just don't have a grip on anything, and I can't take criticism. I'm having a really, really hard time taking criticism right now, or honestly anything that is something that isn't nice or critical in some way. So I'm having a really hard time dealing with that. I'm having a really hard time looking at my face in the mirror. I'm having a really hard time looking at my body in the mirror. And I'm sure now that we're all alone with ourselves, we are just self-loathing like crazy at this point. And I know you feel the same way. I know that you've got to be out there just stuck with yourself, alone with yourself, and you are just hating on yourself. And I want you to know that I love you, though. I love you, and you are not alone in that feeling, though, and it's perfectly valid, because there are a lot of people feeling like that right now. And if you had a really bad day and you were at your lowest point, I want you to know you're not alone. I had a pretty low point, and I have depression, and then that kind of feeds into the disordered eating. And I had a low point this weekend where I purged for the first time in probably like 10 years. I was eating some chips, and I was talking to someone, and what they said just really got to me. For some reason, I couldn't handle it. I didn't tell them about it, but I went to my bathroom, and I had this urge to just get rid of everything that was in my system, almost that self-harming urge, because I do think that purging, and I do think that disordered eating is part of sort of a self-harming, I don't know if it's a predisposition to it or something like that, but It's sort of the same, in the same vein as that. It's sort of, but I think that anything that has to do with disordered eating or anything like that is also kind of in the same vein as self-harm, where you feel like you need to punish yourself because you're not good enough, or you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel right in your own body. And I got to that point. I was on my edge, and I purged. And for a moment, I will say for a moment, it was a relief. I felt better. But again, it's just a band-aid. It's just a band-aid over an old wound that is not healing properly. And how do we take care of those wounds? We've really got to work hard to try and manage those. And it's every day. And what I've come to realize is that even if you have a bad day, if you do end up doing self-harm, which I don't want you to do, I really hope that you don't, but if you do, or if you have a bad day where you just fall off the wagon and you can't get back up, or you just don't feel like you can at that point, just take it as a moment. It doesn't mean you're a complete failure. Just learn from that moment and say, okay, I need to do better this time, because I did that the one day and I was disappointed in myself. I was very, very disappointed in myself. And I said, the next day I felt the urge again. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it again. And it was everything that I could do I went out. I had to take a drive over. I had to get groceries anyway. I went out. I did what I had to do. I got myself out of the house, out of my mindset, out of my own personal space for a minute. And I know everyone's like, don't go outside right now. And I get it, but I don't. Maybe this is wrong of me. I don't know. I don't see the harm in just getting in your car and going on a drive right now. And just getting out, or taking a walk around your complex or something like that, and just going outside for a moment and forcing yourself out of whatever environment you're in at the time. I think it really helps. I know it's so silly of me just like eating pickles right now, but I was literally just sitting and I was like, what do I have to eat? And I had a bunch of anxiety about food, and I was like, I'm just gonna grab some pickles. And I was like, you know what, sitting around eating pickles, talking about depression, let's do it. I did. But basically, just get yourself out of that headspace for a little bit. And honestly, sometimes it means you have to get out of your physical space, which I know is so hard to do right now, but take any opportunity to do it. And I want you to know that whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with right now, I'm going to say it again, you are not alone. You are not by yourself. You are not okay. And I am not okay. We're all not okay together. And it's okay not to be okay. I know it sounds crazy, but I guess we're all in that boat right now, huh? We're going to get through this together. If you need someone to compliment you or say anything like that, pop a comment down below. I am more than happy to tell you how amazing you are, to sit there with you, to say, hey, I'm glad that you exist, because I genuinely am glad that you exist. There are times during this lockdown that I am sitting there in my bed and I am staring at a wall for hours. I am not joking. Hours. I will just sit there, and maybe even a whole day goes by, and I am just sitting there and staring and thinking about all the things that I need to get done that I am not doing because I don't feel like I can do that task. Like, it's an absolutely impossible task for me right now. And you know what? It might be an impossible task. Certain things might be impossible tasks for you right now. And that's okay. Because I'm going to tell you that anyone that I have talked to at this point, even people that I know that are generally normal functioning, non-depressive people, they say that right now they have at least cut productivity for themselves in half because you feel like you have so much time, but you get nothing done. And I want to tell you that you are not by yourself in that. If you feel like you are getting nothing done, a lot of other people feel like that too. Even people that are higher functioning and that are not super depressive all the time, they are dealing with that too. And if today you get out of bed and you simply brush your teeth and go back to bed, you know what? I'm really proud of you for doing that, because it's an act of self-care, and I care about you, and I want you to care about yourself. I was listening to a live stream the other day, and I can't take credit for this, but I was watching Fallon's Instagram, and he said something, I think it was just sort of like an off topic sort of thing, but it resonated with me, and it was something that went along the lines of, he feels like he's a little bit thin-skinned for the critics, and I related to that because I don't take criticism. Well, there's that meme, I think, that's like, can you take constructive criticism? And the other person says, not without crying, you know, like, that's me. And I know that it's constructive, and I know that's okay, but I honestly, like most of us on here, nobody hates themselves more than I hate me. And so any kind of criticism that way just almost validates what I already don't like about myself. And so I get through it, but I have a hard time taking criticism of any kind. And Fallon was talking about how he's a little bit thin-skinned for that. He said, you don't play, because he's a musician, if you don't know. He says, don't play for them. Don't play for the critics. You play for the lovers. And I thought that was really profound, because in life, you're never going to please everyone. You're just not. And the older I get, the more I realize that to be true. You're just not going to please everyone. No matter how amazing you are, no matter what, nobody is ever perfect. No one makes perfect decisions. You're never going to just please everyone. What you have to remember is that there are people out there that want your brand, that love you with all of your faults, with all of whatever you think are your failures or your shortcomings. There is someone out there that wants your brand, that wants you, that will love you. And Fallon says, play for those people, or rather in life, live for those people. Make sure that when you go out and you do what you do and you are genuinely yourself, you do it not to try and impress someone else or someone who cares what they think. Do it for the people that you know genuinely care about you. Now, if you think there is no one that genuinely cares about you, I care about you right now. Because I know that there are people out there that feel how I feel and don't love themselves and are really having a hard time right now. And I don't want them to feel that way. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. That's a Backstreet Boys song. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you look like, what you sound like, what you like in general. I love you, and I do not want you to feel like I feel. But if you do feel like how I feel, I love you anyway. And we are gonna get through this. We are gonna get through this, me and you. Seriously, pop a comment below. I will say hi. I will help you. I am happy to do that for anyone struggling right now, because it sucks. Flat out sucks. And as far as I'm concerned, it's gonna suck for a time. It just is. Like, you see me right now, I tend to favor this side of my face. I'm learning to try and love this side of my face. To me, this side of my face looks so very different from this side, and I feel like it looks like a monster, almost like Phantom of the Opera, you know, like I hate that side of my face. But being in quarantine and being alone with myself all the time, I have really actively tried to just learn to deal with myself, learn to live with myself, learn to love what I have to look at every day, because that is the most important relationship. And like any relationship, you are not gonna like that person every single day. You're gonna get frustrated with that person. You're gonna get mad at that person. But at the end of the day, you have to love that person. And we have to love ourselves. We gotta find it in ourselves to love ourselves. Because there's no other way we're gonna get through this. We gotta find a way to love ourselves. And if it's the simplest thing, if it's the simplest spark of anything, if you sit there and say, I'm a good person because I tried not to be a jerk to this other person or this animal or whatever, that I recycled today, that I got out of bed and tried to live in the real world. You deserve love for doing all of that. And most importantly, you deserve to love yourself. I don't know if this is just rambling or if this is making any sense to anyone but me, but I literally got up today and I was like, I need to eat something. I have a lot of anxiety about it. I'm just gonna eat these pickles because they're low calorie, and I wish I had someone to talk about my depression to. So I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you because I love you and we are in this together. Be strong with me.